Welcome back to After the Battle on Half the Battle. This is something we haven't done in a while, so I couldn't think of a better event to bring back after the battle than this. And Sean O'Malley just went out there, face planted Aljamain Sterling, stuffed all the takedowns, and finally we got an exciting champion. And bantamweight is great again. So this is a very good moment for the sport, man. And listen, I know that, I've been very, harsh and opinionated on Aljo for a very long time. And I think for good reason, but at the same time, don't let that confuse you. I've always respected his ability. Like there was a reason we didn't want him to take Sean O'Malley's back, and we didn't want, there were certain positions we didn't want O'Malley to be in, or anybody that fights Sterling for that matter. But man, Sean O'Malley going out there and stuffing the takedowns, you just love to see it. And yeah, this is great. This is great, man. I mean, because now we have a superstar as the champion, a guy that's got like what 3 million followers on Instagram, and people are gonna give a shit again. I know, like, did you hear Boston booing Aljo out the building? Fuck you, Aljo. Like that's what they were shouting, man. It's crazy, you know. And I heard all these people talking about how come the UFC isn't promoting Aljo, and they see the thumbnails for the embedded, and it's all pictures of Sean. Let me ask you something. If you run a billion-dollar company and you have a champion that's been a champion for over a year now, he's got less than 1 million followers, and you got this other guy who's never even fought for the belt, he's got 3 million followers, a very exciting fighting style, everybody wants to watch him fight. Who are you going to promote? Who's going to bring more eyes? Who's going to bring more pay-per-view buys? Duh, it's Sean O'Malley. So now him winning the belt, it couldn't be a better outcome. But as far as the fight was, concerned, I mean, look, the first round, I actually thought Aljamain did some smart stuff, because we know that Sean O'Malley has had issues, with, I guess you could say, with his legs, whether it was the Sukumtut fight where he kind of broke his leg, throwing a head kick, and then he took kind of a weird step back, or the Chito Vera fight when, that nerve got hit. And yeah, so the only times we've seen Sean O'Malley kind of have any kind of adversity was due to leg kicks. And Aljo was actually coming out there and leg kicking Sean O'Malley. So I thought it was pretty smart, but he didn't really shoot any takedowns until the second round, maybe kind of the end of the first round. And one way you could look at it is, when you heard me break down the show, I said there's two paths to victory for O'Malley: an early knockout, or he's got to go through some shit, weather that body triangle storm, and then get it to the championship rounds, where y'all saw in the TJ Dillashaw, excuse me, not the TJ Dillashaw fight, in the Henry Cejudo and the second Peter Yan fight, where those weight cuts take their toll on Aljamain, and he starts shooting those takedowns from a mile out. He's completely gassed in the championship rounds. So maybe Sterling was kind of trying to ease into the fight and preserve that gas tank and not just go all out, because going for all those takedowns, it tires you out, man. It is very exhausting to wrestle consistently, especially at the pace that Aljamain does. So Aljamain did the smart thing. He was trying to kick those legs of O'Malley, take his base away from him, and then eventually transition to the takedowns. But man, let me tell you what, when he got O'Malley up against the fence, O'Malley had a nice wide base. O'Malley was swimming for those underhooks. O'Malley disengaged. And when it was time, O'Malley countered him with a beautiful pull right hand counter and face planted him. And people talking about early stoppage, I just went back and rewatched it again. I think I counted like 15 to 20 unanswered strikes. Early stoppage, my ass. Like, did you all see Sterling pop up and complain early stoppage? No, because he was done. That fight was over, man. Like, if you would have let it continue, then the guy would have went unconscious. I mean, why let him take that kind of damage? So that fight was over with, man. And man, it is good to see Sean O'Malley as the champion, and I'm not saying that he's going to be a long reigning champion, because you got guys like Umar, you got Sanhagen, but people are crying about, well, why is he fighting Chito next with all these other guys? Well, apparently Sandhagen tore his tricep. Umar had to pull out the Sandhagen fight. He's injured. Merab just had surgery. He's injured. So who else is going to fight him? Plus, O'Malley and Chito is a big rematch. These guys have fought before. It's the only loss of O'Malley's career. Some of y'all thought Peter lost. That Peter beat him. But officially, Peter did not beat him. So, it's one of those things. The only guy to officially beat him is Chito. So this is going to be a big fight. Chito got a big win tonight. So yeah, I'm going to talk about this whole card. I'm also down to talk with y'all in person. So I'm posting the link to join me on this stream. And, I'm down to talk for a couple minutes to each person, see what y'all got to say, share my thoughts. And first up, we got Steve P. Betts. I've never met Steve before. This is our first time talking. Steve, nice to meet you, man. What do you think about what went down tonight?
Yeah, first of all, it was awesome. I'm like you. I was never a big Eljo fan. And, it was so funny to me that everyone was calling him a fraud this time 2 years ago. And now he's the bantamweight GOAT heading into this fight. It just didn't make sense to me. And, I saw you tweet like Aljo's getting ready to pull a stunt. Like, what made you say that? Because I thought the same thing. Yeah, answer that first.
Well, I'm glad you asked. That's a great question. It's because you just saw at the press conference, he was just trying too hard. He's getting too loud. The fans start booing, and you could tell that it was really getting to him. And you could just see the pressure of the moment. He's doing all this talking, and O'Malley is just looking stone cold like a killer, man. So it was one of those things where, it just reminded me of kind of a more high level version of when Jay Perrin fought Rosas. Jay Perrin is like the gold standard of a stunt. Aljamain's obviously a champion and a lot more professional, but he was just acting uncharacteristic. Like, Aljo, you're not a shit talker, man. Like that's just not your style. You are not a good shit talker. He was getting emotional. And then back to your other point about how he won the belt and people calling him a bantamweight GOAT. Like, people are so quick to call people the GOAT of a weight class. And, I still go back to my original points about how, like, when you win the belt via DQ, now, of course, Peter Yan made a fucking mistake. Like, let's not even like it's not Aljo's fault that Peter Yan did that. But like, when you talk about the BMFs, and that's been a big, top talking point for me lately. And just like, 2 weeks ago, we had the BMF card, all the bullshit with Stephen Wonderboy turning down the Pereira fight. And then you found out tonight that he was the first guy that got offered the Ian Garry fight, right? It wasn't Magny. It was Stephen Thompson. And Ian's the guy that's going to make weight. If making weight's the big issue, Ian's going to make weight. If not fighting a grappler is the big issue, Ian's going to stand with you. So what's the excuse now, right? So when you talk about the real BMFs, they don't do stuff like that. Like, would Alex Pereira ever, put on an acting job? Would Justin Gaethje ever put on an acting job? Jamal Hill? So just winning the belt like that already is kind of like, listen, you heard me and Cody talking about it on the show, where it's like, okay, well, it's a huge swing in your purse, so we get it. Like, now you're gonna get pay-per-view points, and plus he wasn't gonna come back and win that fight. So in terms of a financial decision, he did the right thing. But as a warrior, we just kind of looked down upon it. And then you looked at his subsequent fights, the second Peter Yan fight. Listen, man, he won the second and third round, but the first, fourth, and fifth, look, when you're squeaking by these split decisions, the TJ fight, it's not his fault. TJ was injured, but you fought a 39 or whatever year old with one arm. And then the next fight against Cejudo, dude coming off a 3-year layoff, a 5'4" midget former flyweight, and it's a split decision too. It's like, how can you call that guy the GOAT? It's not the kind of dominance that GOATs do.
No, exactly. And I bet O'Malley, and like I said, I was a little nervous just because it seemed like, the path to victory for Aljo was, take him down, backpack him. But, exactly what I thought could happen is what happened. But it was funny because I've rewatched it, and man, I don't know, Aljo, braces for that hit, and he went down. I'm not saying he took a dive, but it seemed a little fishy when I watched it in slow motion. And then he's clapping, for the guy he just talked shit on, when they, announced O'Malley the winner. It was just weird. The whole thing was kind of weird. And it goes back to
Yeah,
what you said in the beginning about, I mean, and we've seen some awful decisions like, last week with, what's his name? Hakeem Dynamo or whatever. Like he was like minus 1,000 on the fucking live line and he lost. Like, I don't know. I was very confident that if this fight was close and it went to the judges, just like that Jan fight, O'Malley was going to win. So it was really like, can O'Malley avoid getting choked out here? But I don't know. It's great for the division, that's for sure. I like O'Malley a lot. But yeah, it was just kind of a weird, I don't know. I'm not saying he took a dive, but man, if you watch it in slow motion, it's kind of fishy, I'll say.
I mean, I don't think he took a dive at all. I think he
No.
ate a clean counter right hand, and he
Yeah.
went face first into the canvas. And the whole clapping thing is just good sportsmanship. You got to give him
Fair
credit.
enough.
Like
Yeah.
when I understand that they were talking all that shit, but
Yeah.
it's promoting the fight. And when you get beat fair and square like that, like okay, if Aljo lost a clear robbery, then he would have not been clapping. He would have been like, "What the fuck, man? Like, are you
Yeah.
fucking kidding me?" Right? Like,
That's true.
you see some dude storm out the octagon, like not even shake the guy's hand. But when you get beat fair and square like that, you face plant, then you eat 15 to 20 unanswered strikes. It's one of those
Yeah.
things where
No. Yeah.
he had no choice but to be a good sport about it. So that was pretty much it. So man,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people in this lobby waiting for me. Any other comments regarding that fight or the rest of the card?
No, that's it, man. Thanks for having me on. And
Absolutely.
yeah, love the show. And I'll be tuning in next week. Peace,
Thank you,
man.
man. I appreciate it. Nice to meet you, buddy. All right. That was Steve. Cool guy. So yeah, I mean, listen, I think the most surprising part was for a lot of people was that when Aljo did get in on those entries, he wasn't able to secure the takedown. So that's again credit to that wide base of O'Malley, credit to him swimming for those underhooks, getting that separation, and just going out there and doing exactly what he needed to do. He didn't take any unnecessary risks in the early going. And I actually, like I said earlier, I thought it was good on Aljo's part to kick those legs, but it was uncharacteristic of Aljo to not shoot a million takedowns like he normally does. Was he worried about gassing out? Was the range of O'Malley kind of, too much for him? I don't know. Let's see what Chase has to say about it. What's up, Chase?
How's it going, Dan? Big fan.
I appreciate that, man. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's awesome. That was a pretty good card. I think that main event probably went about as good as the UFC could have hoped that went, pretty much. Like, I think Dana White has got to be pretty happy with how that went.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, who wasn't happy with how that went besides Aljo's team?
Yeah, for sure. So earlier in the week, I saw you talking about Weidman and Weidman's status going in.
Mm-hmm.
I think he looked exactly how we all thought he'd look. What about you?
Yeah. Firstly, are you Canadian by chance?
I'm very Canadian, yeah.
Yeah, I can tell with the accent. Where in Canada are you from?
I'm near Ottawa, Ontario.
Okay, that's what's up. I got a Senators jersey when I was a kid.
That's
So
awesome.
I still have it. I still have it. But as far as Weidman's concerned, because yeah, my only bet of the night was on Brad Tavares, and I'd been saying it for a long time. Like when Chris Weidman comes back, he will be faded, just on a matter of principle. And I got to give him a lot of credit, man. Like he fucking went for it, man. Like he was getting hurt all over the place. Both legs were getting kicked out. He could barely walk. And like I actually think he rocked Tavares at times, man. Like I was like, oh my God, Brad. Like, but all that being said, it was still a 30-27. It was just like one of the more like sweatier 30-27s that I had money on. But at the same time, Brad's takedown defense is so good. And when I went back and watched the tape, so I only watched like 4 fights to get ready for that. I watched the 2 wins that Tavares had recently, the Carlos Jr. one, because Carlos Jr. attempted like 9 takedowns. So I wanted to see, what's this dude's takedown defense looking like in this day and age. Historically speaking, he's been known for good takedown defense, but I just wanted to see. And man, his balance has always been amazing. He even got up from a sketchy situation against Carlos Jr. and then against Omari. Omari actually hit 2 takedowns on him, and he held him down for like less than 2 seconds. Like Tavares pops right back up. So that's what I need to see. And the Duplessis fight, like, man, like, he fucking won the first round, and even though he clearly lost the next 2, he went toe to toe with the #1 contender in the division. And then you watch the Bruno Silva fight, where I actually bet Bruno Silva at dog odds, and even though he got caught in that fight, and man, he almost got caught against Weidman too, he was throwing hard against Silva. And then you go and watch Chris Weidman against Omari, and Weidman did have success wrestling, but man, the first few shots he was shooting were from a mile out. It was looking ugly, and it looks like Chris's like confidence standing is completely done. So that's where I thought that, you know, Tavares was just going to be able to kind of light him up like he did. But man, Tavares didn't have as much success with the hands as I thought he did. It was just all leg kicks, which was very, very smart on his part. So, yeah, I mean, I was happy with it despite a few sketchy situations along the way, you know?
Yeah, I was happy with how Tavares fought. I got him at -275. I thought it was a decent line just because I was so sure that you just don't come back at 39 from a leg break like that. And honestly, like, all respect in the world to Weidman. Like, what a true champion. Like, to like really like give no shits about that, what everyone's saying. Like, everyone's telling him to retire, and like he's just like going through with it, doing what he wants to do. But yeah, no quitting that guy for sure.
Yeah, he's a dog, man. I mean, for 39 years old, been knocked out in what, 6 of his last 8, dropped in 7 of his last 8, coming off the leg break. And for me, Weidman making it to the octagon was a victory in itself.
Definitely.
So, you know, all respect to him. And honestly, if he wants to take one more fight, I think he can. It just, you have to handpick the opponent, right? Like, if we pull up the roster, let's pull up the roster right now.
Let's give him Dumas. Give him Cedric Dumas.
Are you sure he wins that?
He did look better his last fight. You're right. I know.
Who's someone that like just cannot stuff a takedown?
Dennis Tululin.
Yeah. Okay. See, now we're talking. The only thing is, if they stand, Dennis could knock him out, and that would be so bad. But like, man,
I think he could shoot from across the cage and put Dennis on his ass in 5 seconds.
Yeah. No, I like that idea. I think that it has to be like a Dennis Tululin, a Jamie Pickett. It's just like, with the kind of money Weidman's making, like, you know, Weidman probably makes like $250,000 to show or something like that. Like, you just can't put him in there with a guy like that. Like Brad Tavares, yeah, he might not be like, you know, a former champ, but he's still like a perennial top 15 guy, right? So, all right, let me pull up the rankings and see if anyone at the rankings is like towards the end of their career where like you can justify it. So right now at middleweight, let's see who they got. Let's start from number 15 and go down. So number 15 is Andre Muniz. What do you think about that? You think is that a bad matchup for Chris Weidman at this point?
Just if for Chris to have like his ideal fight where he's getting takedowns, I think that's just like super dangerous against Muniz. But I think it's a winnable. I think it's a more winnable fight than Tavares, just because. I don't rate me. I'm not that high on Muniz at the moment, but then again, that could just be recency bias. That's a tough one, honestly. To really
what about this? What about this? I know this guy's actually ranked in the top 10, which is kind of crazy. He's ranked number 7 in the world, but I think he's on his way out. What about Derek Brunson? But here's the issue though. Derek Brunson is very hard to take down. So would Derek Brunson knock him out? But Derek Brunson doesn't have the best chin either. So
I didn't even thought about that like at all. Yeah, I think that would just be like a really bad fight for the viewers to watch. If they, like, I don't think that would be anything I'm interested in seeing at this point.
No, I got you. I mean, but at the same time, what, you know, Weidman fight would you be interested in seeing at this time? It's more so about, you know, fading.
Yeah.
Just looking at a gambling perspective more than an entertainment perspective, right? But
yeah, speaking of fade, though, I do think a Tavares fade, another one's coming very soon, though, after that.
100%. Well, we faded him
versus
Bruno. It's just, you know, the Weidman fade was just a principle. It was what they call a system bet, right?
Exactly.
You just have to fade this man on principle. But Chase, you got anything else for me?
No, I'll let someone else behind me get in here. Appreciate it,
buddy.
man.
Yeah, nice to meet you, man. And I
Nice to
appreciate
meet
the
you.
support.
Awesome.
Yes, sir. All right, K Dot. Normally I don't let people without faces in here, but you said you'd love to speak on O'Malley. Do you not have a camera, my man?
Yes, sir. I'd like to speak on O'Malley real quick.
What's up?
Oh man, I was counting out Sugar Shane. I was definitely counting them out. The only thing that kept in my mind was, well, look what he did to Sandhagen. They got the same body type, same similar style, and that's just what kept coming to my mind. Oh, he's just gonna take him down and destroy him. But I think the difference was O'Malley had the fortune of being prepared for that. He got to see that fight and he was able to prepare for that. That blitz that he likes to do, he likes to come out real hot, push him against the cage. O'Malley did a good job of circling, staying off the cage, and just a perfect game plan, perfect way to counter that blitz, that pressure. He was just so prepared for that.
Yeah. You talking about O'Malley? Sorry,
Yeah.
I misheard you.
Yeah, O'Malley, he was just prepared because he saw the way Sandhagen got dominated against the cage like that. And I feel like he was he took a page out of that book just to how not to fight and how to be prepared to avoid that scenario.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, his footwork is on point. He was elusive. He wasn't, backing up into the cage. The only time he got backed into the cage was at the very end of the first round, which I think probably swung the first round towards Aljo's favor. I actually didn't get a chance to see what the scorecard said, but I would assume that Aljo won the first round. But man, Aljo, he made one mistake standing, and that's all it takes with a guy like Sean. And as you saw, now Sean's the new champ.
Yep, that's all it takes. And yeah, he did. Aljo, they all gave him 3 rounds. They all gave him the first round, all 3 judges. So the thing I'd like to see is how O'Malley does against Merab, how they match up, because Merab's a different type of pressure. Like he's gonna come forward too, and he leaves his chin up in the air. I mean, I'm gonna pick against O'Malley again. I just think Merab would do what Sterling couldn't. I don't know. I feel like that's the fight to make. I don't know why they're talking about Chito Vera. Merab's
It's because Merab just had a surgery. He's going to be out for a while.
Oh, okay, that's right.
Yeah. So, it's going to be a minute before we see Merab, and then Corey's out, Umar's out. So like all the top guys that people want to see, in terms of hardcore fans want to see, right? Like they're all injured. So the Chito fight's going to be a big fight. So that's the one. You got anything else for me, K Dot?
That's it, man. Let's take my call. I'll leave you to it.
All right, buddy. Take care. B-Rip. What's up, B-Rip?
What's up, Dan? Man, I'm a huge fan of the show. Love all the breakdowns and everything. So, dude, keep up the great work with that. But dude, and shout out to the 3 guys that were ahead of me, man. They all brought, a great conversation to the game as well. I really actually enjoyed all 3 of those guys as well. So, kind of my question for you is, so ever since I think it was Ian Garry fought Jordan Williams, and my dad, who's kind of more of like a mainstream fan, I'm a bit on the more hardcore side. And my dad's, I think it was, the Jordan Williams fight, and my, fucking Ian Garry obviously, fucking kicked his ass. And my dad, he's like, anytime this Ian Garry's fighting, call me and tell me. So, people are talking about the it factor with Sugar Sean. And I was kind of just curious your thoughts on the Ian Garry fight tonight. And the wrinkle I have to bring to the conversation is, somebody like my dad, who's more of a mainstream fan, he's really hyped on Ian Garry. And it's, I know people kind of give him a hard time for the shit talk, the promos, he kind of reiterates what guys have said in the past. But damn, man, the speed, the skill, the strike selection, the grappling, the takedowns, he's a really well-rounded fighter. Obviously, the chin's a little bit of a concern. Even tonight, he's like chin up against Magny. But man, even some like a more mainstream fan like my father, is really hyped on Ian Garry, and it's not the shit talk, it's not the promos, it's kind of just the speed, the skill, and the performances he's putting on. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Ian Garry performance tonight. Dan, take it away.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Ian Garry beat the shit out of Neil Magny, and people were talking about he couldn't even finish Neil Magny. Like, dude, trust me, if he wanted to finish Neil Magny, he would have finished him. He tortured Neil Magny. This is the first ever time where Ian Garry wasn't friendly with his opponent, where, you know, with like D-Rod, like, you know, he brought him pizza and weed the night before, right? Who else has Ian Garry been in there with? Who would he fight prior to that? I don't even remember. But basically he's been friendly with like all these guys, right? Like shaking their hands, doing the whole bit. This is the first guy that he talked shit to, the first guy that he didn't shake his hand. And I think he tortured the guy, man. I mean, I think he didn't like the comments that Neil said. Neil, when I was on Twitter, people were like misreading what I said in terms of what Neil said, but Neil said something along the lines that, like, you know, I'm gonna whoop this guy like my kid or something. And like, you know, when you say something like that to a guy like Ian, Ian's gonna take it and he's gonna turn it into something to where he's gonna make you look bad as a result. And he knows how to get guys emotionally invested. Like when he found out that you know, what's his name, Jeff Neal had a mugshot, he made the mugshot t-shirt, and like all these people got all pissed about it. But that's what Ian Garry wants. He wants you to get emotionally invested and to fight uncharacteristic. And I don't know if we mentioned this, but y'all know Wonder Boy turned down the Ian Garry fight, right? But
yeah.
Crazy, right? But I mean, it's not that crazy when you think about it. He's been turned down every fight. But no, but back to this, man. Sorry. I like to joke around. But I mean, I thought that the calf kicks were going to be a huge approach, because when you see these guys going out there and beating Neil Magny, how did Santiago Ponzinibbio beat him? He chopped him down with the calf kicks. Eventually he went upstairs, face planted him in that 4th round. How did Lorenz Larkin do it? Same thing, chopped him down with the calf kicks, and he has some disgusting elbows on him. And I think Ian Garry kind of wanted to play with his food. I think he wanted to torture him, and that's exactly what he did. He destroyed him. I've been on the Ian Garry train as long as you have, since day one. And even in that Jordan Williams fight, he did get tagged a bit, because one thing about being, you know, that tall man, that 6'3" guy, he's got that tall man defense. So eventually someone will capitalize. I just don't think it's going to be any of these guys that he's fighting right now. I think it's going to happen, you know, once he like really rises the ranks. But it's like, when I think about it, like, who's going to be the guy that's going to really capitalize on it? Because a lot of the top guys in that weight class are mostly wrestlers. So, and as you saw, you know, not just tonight, but on Ian's regional fights, the guy can grapple too. Like, he's not just a one-trick pony. The guy is very well-rounded, and he's got like elite confidence too, man. Like, you can just tell he's got that swag, he's got that it factor, he's got that thing about him. People are already hating on him for literally no reason at all. Those are usually the guy. And like, back to Sterling, what was Sterling saying in his promo? Sterling wasn't talking about how, you know, I'm the best, or I'm the this, or I'm the that. Sterling was talking about, O'Malley's been gifted everything. The UFC has handed this man everything. Like, he's never fought anybody. And when I hear people say that, I'm like, so do you not consider yourself somebody? Because he's fighting you. So if he's never fought anybody, what does that make you, right? Like, and he just fought Peter Yan prior, who whooped your ass the first time.
Yeah.
You barely got by with a split decision the second time. He's also fought Chito Vera. Weird ending, but he still fought Chito Vera. He fought Pedro Munoz, another weird ending, but he still fought Pedro Munoz. So when you're putting emphasis on, oh, he's only been in there with Chris Moutinho and Terrion Ware, I mean, that's just such an ignorant way to look at it, because it's like, yeah, those are the guys that he fought, you know, at one point, but he's also been in there at this point now with Aljo, who people, not me, but people were calling the bantamweight GOAT, which is such disrespect to Dominic Cruz. And, and let me tell you something else. You saw how John Anik was tweeting how Aljamain's the bantamweight GOAT. So when I was watching tape on the Chris Weidman fight, because, you know, I bet Brad Tavares, right? Guess what John Anik said. Go pull up that Dominic Reyes versus Chris Weidman fight. It's only like a minute 20 or whatever. During that fight, John Anik says, sitting next to me, the bantamweight GOAT. Dominic Cruz. So which one is it, John? You know what I mean? Because it's like, is it because Ray Longo, and no disrespect, I love all these guys, but I'm just, let's just talk factually, right? Are you now calling Aljo the bantamweight GOAT because you know one of your podcast mates is his head coach?
Right.
You know, is that why you're calling him the bantamweight GOAT? Because you can't win a belt by DQ and then, you know, barely get past these split decisions and be in a GOAT conversation, man. Like,
Right.
the only decisive win he's had, and again, it's not his fault that TJ was injured and that TJ is, you know, a million years old, but that's his only decisive win in his title reign. So to call him the bantamweight GOAT is just absolutely absurd in my eyes, man. Dominic Cruz is a guy who's won the belt multiple times in the UFC. And we're talking about multiple years apart, because you remember he had to take a few years off with his injury. He's a guy that won the belt in the WEC, which I consider the UFC because the WEC merged into the UFC. It was the exact same weight class, right? Like there was never a bantamweight or featherweight division in the UFC until Jose Aldo and Dominic Cruz came into the UFC. So it was literally just the same weight class merging. So I count those WEC title defenses as UFC title defenses. So to call Aljo the bantamweight GOAT is just so categorically false. And it's almost offensive to Dominic Cruz. And tonight you saw that, you know, against the guy, like I saw people showing amateur clips of Sean O'Malley losing a fight to some random dude back in the day. It's like the Allen Iverson quote. We're talking about practice now. Like, amateurs don't count. Who gives a fuck about amateurs? It's about where you're at right now. So people are just so wrong. Like, he's never fought anybody. Aljamain Sterling, Peter Yan, Chito Vera, Pedro Munoz. That's nobody. Like, so now he knocked out the alleged GOAT, who I never thought was the GOAT. But I thought he was a great fighter. I thought he was the champ, no questions asked. But to call Aljo the bantamweight GOAT is just so categorically false in my eyes.
Yeah, I agree. You know, it's disrespectful to Dominic for sure. You know what I mean? And I respect and like one of the reasons I love the show is, you know, I'm a history guy. Dude, full thing. I'm a history teacher. Fucking R.I.P. Cody Gibson and Aljamain, dude, the teacher squad took the L tonight. But dude, the historical knowledge you have of MMA really brings another wrinkle to your show that I really appreciate. Like you going back to the WEC days, harkening back to Dominic Cruz's dominance back then. And it's like, you know, Dominic Cruz really is the bantamweight GOAT until, you know, once again, you know, time goes on and maybe there'll be a new bantamweight GOAT one day. But, you know, it's not Aljamain Sterling. So, yeah, that was it kind of was disrespectful to Dominic. And it's like, do we forget history that quickly? You know, I remember Connor had a kind of an interesting tweet one time, and he was just like, you know, this cold, you know, game of recency. And it kind of feels like that sometimes, you know, recency bias takes over in this game. But Dan, thank you so much for having me on, man. It's always a pleasure. You had me on once before over a year ago, and I just recently showed my family, like I pulled it up. I went through the file of all the podcasts and they thought it was like the funniest thing ever. They're like, why didn't you show us sooner? So dude, it's always a pleasure. I love how you interact with the fans, and dude, the breakdowns, I never miss a single one, man. Keep up the great work. It's, dude, just such a pleasure to be on the show, and thank you so much, man.
Hey, thank you. Are you on Twitter by chance?
Dude, so I rebranded my thing as MMA Controversy recently.
Yeah. I remember I commented. I like that name.
Yeah. So, you know, my thing is B-Rip, but I just thinged as MMA Controversy. I have an Twitter account, but, you know, there's no followers. There's nothing on it, literally. So it's completely blank, man.
Well, so it's MMA Controversy. That's what it is?
Yes, correct, sir.
Yo, follow this man at MMA Controversy, man.
Hell yeah, man. Yeah.
And also, if you get a chance, DM me that clip of us talking a while ago. I don't even remember it because I've done like a million episodes, but like I'd love to check that out.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, you had a million episodes and you were having like, you know, 4 or 5 guys on back then, you know, per show. So, you know, I was just happy to hop on and say, you know, dude, I love the breakdowns. But yeah, man, I'll definitely forward you the clip because my family thought it was like the funniest fucking thing, dude. And yeah, man. So, dude, just always a pleasure. Dan, thank you so much. And man, I hope you see you at a UFC event, you know, in person one time. You know, it'd be great to dap you up one time. So,
yeah. For sure. Where are you from?
Dude, I'm a St. Louis guy, St. Louis, Missouri. So,
Okay.
I know you're all about your Atlanta guys. And
Absolutely.
goddamn, Cody Durden, man, I was on Charles Johnson. He's a St. Louis guy, and holy shit, man, dude, all the respect to Cody, man. It was just like, dude, that ass whipping was crazy. But yeah, man, I love all my St. Louis guys. Buckley, you know what I mean? Sean Woodson's on the come up, so like him as well. And obviously, dude, I'll give respect to my guy, everybody cringes, but dude, I was a Tyron Woodley fan, like that
Hey,
was
he won me some money back in the day, so
yeah. So, he was one of the guys that kind of got me into MMA. Like my family was originally from Florissant. Ferguson's kind of just like the next thing over. So, he was a guy that kind of, was right across the way for us. So, Tyron Woodley was always a guy that I liked, but I understand the cringe, the rap career, I understand all the cringe, but he was a guy that I always stand up for my St. Louis guys. Absolutely. Absolutely.
got you. I actually saw him win the belt in Atlanta against Robbie.
Dude, absolutely. Like the crowning moment of his career, literally. I mean,
Yes,
I remember leading up to the Jake Paul fight, of course, you show that knockout to all your friends, like, you see, you're like, here's what Tyron's gonna, because I'm from St. Louis trying to hype up, my guy Tyron, but
yes, sir.
Dan.
All right, my man. You take care, buddy.
Dude, Dan, thank you so much. See you later, man. Thank you.
You got it, man. See ya. Armchair MMA. What's up, bud?
Hey, what's up, Dan? Can you hear me?
Man. Yeah,
Okay,
I can
cool.
hear you great.
Cool. Hey, well, that last guy was talking about you being like MMA historian. You remember back in the day when Cody Gibson got in a street fight? It was taped on like YouTube or something like that.
Google me, bitch.
Yeah, that's funny, dude. It fighting again kind of brought back, I've been watching this sport for a while, so it's kind of coming full circle or whatever. But so I kind of just wanted to ask, when I was like going into the, just kind of thinking about the main event, I thought that Aljo is kind of going to be sticking more to like a leg kick heavy game plan, kind of more clinch works. Like I know everyone was talking about backpack and stuff like that. I thought really, keep it boring. All you need to do is win 3 rounds out of 5 and, just kind of more clinch control, stuff like that. It seemed almost like he was kind of sticking to that plan late and just kind of got a little defensively irresponsible, left his hand down on there. Do you think if they ran it back, it'd be a closer fight or?
Sorry, the Cody Gibson one?
Or no, I'm sorry, not Cody Gibson. The main event, Aljamain Sterling.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen, anytime that a fight gets ran back, it's going to be a different outcome every single time. Like, how many times have we seen it, right? Like where, like Shogun and Machida, where the first time's this 5-round war, then the next time's a 1st-round finish. And,
Right.
Like Cowboy and Benson Henderson, they fought 3 times. First time, I think first time was a 5-round war. Next time, Benson guillotines him in the 1st round. And the 3rd time, Cowboy wins a controversial decision.
Yeah.
Or like Showtime versus Cowboy, first time body kick knockout, next time 3-round decision. So it's going to be a different outcome each time. But historically speaking, when you're talking about title fights, the guy that won the first time wins the majority of the rematches, because like, especially when you talk about like somewhat like long reigning champions, Aljo wasn't that long of a reigning champ, but he still defended the belt 3 times, right? So usually when they come off that title loss, they don't quite come back the same. And Aljo, not that he's old or anything, but he is 34. I mean, that's not old. I mean, Volk is like 35, but I'm just saying, O'Malley is like really entering his prime. How old is O'Malley? Like 28, 29? Something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
30 at most, right?
Right.
So there's this saying, I don't know if Teddy Atlas said it or someone said it, about how like when you win the belt, you level up like 30%.
Right.
And then you take into consideration that now Sean knows for a fact that he can not only knock this man out, he can stuff his takedowns, he can face plant him.
Well, he kind of has the mental warfare down already too, so I can imagine going into it. Aljo seems a bit of a head case to me as well.
Yeah, I think that he's been like that since day one. Like if you really like date back, like around the time when he fought Brian Caraway, and I actually bet Caraway like plus 350 against Sterling and cashed. Around that time, he actually, I think he like asked to leave the UFC at one point, and he had like this like big contract dispute with the UFC. And this is back when he was like first getting started, and he was like a prelim fighter.
Right.
So that's why like he got off to a wrong foot with the UFC from the jump. Like he was someone that no one gave a shit about, and he was, you know, talking shit to the hand that feeds him kind of ordeal, right? So, and plus his fighting style is just not the most exciting. That's just like, what's your favorite Aljamain Sterling fight?
Oh man, it's like which one gets me to sleep first, you know what I mean?
I mean, it's the Marlon Moraes fight and the Sean O'Malley fight, right? Like, or the first, or the first Peter Yan fight. Like, those are my favorite Aljamain Sterling fights, right?
Right. Maybe if you like hate Corey Sandhagen, maybe you'd like that one. But
well, true. Like, if you want, like, look, you got to give him credit, man. I mean, because he's done some things that other guys haven't been able to do, like to submit Sandhagen like that. Even back in the day, he had a this fucking arm triangle from guard on bottom against Takeya Mizugaki. He had this nasty guillotine against Johnny Eduardo. Like, he's done some funky ass shit. It's just the reason I kind of was like on the fence about him is because he seemed like a front runner, and that Brian Caraway fight kind of exposed it. Like, he takes Brian Caraway's back that first round, and then the second and third round, he's got nothing left. And then you look at his championship reign, and like he comes out strong, but then in, you know, fourth and fifth round against Cejudo and Yan, he's diving for takedowns from a mile out. So there's never been that complete, you know, start to finish performance from him.
Right. And that's another reason why it's like, no, I don't think he needs to necessarily just take him down. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't need to burn all the energy spamming takedowns first round, because I don't think he really is the type of guy to be able to sustain it. But I mean, I remember reading about Aljamain Sterling on like, I don't know, MMA Mania or something like back in the day, and like Blue Chip Prospect right around like Pedro Munoz or something was coming in around that time. And I almost feel like he kind of like overreached where everyone thought he was going to be. But I at the same time, with him being older, Merab's his training partner, it might be kind of like time for him to pass the torch to him. I could see like Sean O'Malley being a stepping stone, but I just feel like it's kind of hard for him to get back at this point. So I don't know if he's even going to be able to get to a rematch.
Well, yeah, because prior to this fight, he said, win or lose, I'm going up to 145 pounds. And now that, and I think he thought in his head, you know, I'm going to snap the twig. I'm going to do all these things. Right. So he thought for a fact that like, he thought, I mean, I'm not in the guy's head, I'm assuming, but I think he thought that he was just going to take him down one time, take his back, and the fight was going to be over shortly after. So when Sean O'Malley goes out there, stuffs his takedowns, I think it was a bit of a shock for him. It was like, oh fuck, like what's going on here? Like, this is not going according to plan. And now it's like, well, if Sean's doing that to you, what's Volk gonna do to you? And even Sean said that at the press conference. Like, this is even before the fight happened. Like, Sean was like, do you know what Volk would do to this guy? And I think all of us kind of know, all of us with brains know that like Volk would absolutely mop the floor with Aljamain Sterling. Like, Volk might have lost the Islam fight on the scorecards, but Volk made such a good account of himself against not only a better grappler than Aljo in Islam, but a much more physical, a much bigger guy, a guy in Islam who could possibly go up to 170 before his career is said and done. So for Volk to have that kind of showing against Islam, I don't think that Aljo has a snowflake's chance in hell against Volk. So Aljo is in an interesting spot in his career, but luckily for him, he's made his money, he's won his belts, and you know, it's not like he's going to get a small fight next.
Right. Well, you know, and I wrestled 8th grade. I wrestled 132. Junior year, I wrestled 171. So I mean, that's pretty big difference when you're talking about someone like Sterling and someone like Islam. You know, if he can handle his own with Islam, I mean, stuff like Calvin Kattar, like I think that would I think he would have a lot of problems against like a Calvin Kattar just being in his face the whole time. He might look good, you know, first round if he can get him down. And that's just saying that, you know, he transitions well, his grappling goes well at 145. But yeah, I don't know if there's a lot of people at 145 that in a 5-round fight, I wouldn't favor them to at least like, you know, take a shot live betting them.
Yeah, no, I feel you. So it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out and
Right.
see exactly, you know, what he does next. I mean, if he sticks to his word, then he's going to go up to 45s next. But, you know,
Yeah.
I know for a fact he didn't think this was going to happen. But I also know that they're going to do the Chito fight. They ain't giving Aljo an immediate rematch. Like, he may have defended the belt 3 times, but he does not have the fighting style that people want to watch, doesn't have the personality that anyone gives a fuck about. And he just got knocked out, so he's gonna be on concussion protocol for a little bit. So I think yeah, we'll see what happens next. You got anything else for me?
Yeah, I'll just say I'm sure they probably will do the Cheeto, but it feels a little dirty for Sandhagen, right? I mean,
He's injured.
Oh, okay. All right, I didn't catch that.
Yeah. So like I said, Sandhagen torn tricep, he's out for a while.
Okay.
Marab just had surgery. Umar pulled out the Sandhagen fight, he's injured. So
Right.
So you that, and then you mix in the fact that Cheeto's the only guy to beat O'Malley. That's the fight.
Sometimes stars align like that, right?
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you having me on, dude.
My pleasure, man. Good talking to you.
For sure. You too.
Hey, what's your Twitter?
I think it's MMA Armchair. I mean, I don't really post as much stuff. I kind of just, I'll tweet someone in response more than anything. But I believe it's either Armchair MMA or MMA Armchair.
Got you. All right, man. Well, I appreciate it, and best of luck to you going forward. All right.
Yeah, for sure. You too, man.
Yes, sir. Take care.
All right.
Finesse the Books. What a dope name. What a dope name. What's up, bro?
What's good, bro? How you doing?
Doing fucking awesome. How are you doing, man?
Bro, I love fight night. It's the most incredible thing ever. Still up. Just great night of fights. How'd you do tonight?
Good. I only bet on Brad Tavares tonight.
Okay, yeah, W. Yeah, insane night of fights. Super interesting conversations before me that I heard. Yeah, I mean, so you were just talking about Aljo too. He just said at the press conference that he wants the immediate rematch, which is interesting. After saying he's going to go up to 45, so yeah, just insane. I know a lot of the main card is getting love, but on the undercard too, Natalia Silva is fucking incredible. Oh my goodness, she's going to be a problem, just absolute demolition. But yeah, I love fight night. Incredible night of fights, incredible card. I can't wait to do it again.
Yes, sir. Where are you from, man?
So I'm actually around an A. I seen you tweeting that your gym is close to here. I think we're pretty close. I'm originally from New York, but I live near Atlanta right now.
You're in Atlanta?
Yeah, bruh.
My man, where in Atlanta?
I live in Roswell right now.
Like Roswell City or Roswell Road?
Roswell, like the city, is close to Roswell Road.
Okay, that's what's up. Yeah, my gym's off Roswell Road, Team Octopus.
Yeah, I heard.
Come train sometime, man.
Yeah, I was gonna pull up. You had like an open mat. I was gonna pull up, but I'm like, I'm definitely not rolling with y'all. So
why not?
Because I gotta get in shape a little bit. I know I'm gonna get crushed, which is part of the game, but I wasn't feeling it that day. And when
I feel you, bro. But like, you got to think about it this way: like, we're not dicks. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody's super cool. We're not there to injure anybody. It's just, and honestly, like we want to help people get better, right? Like, I mean, if someone shows up and they're a dick, then they're gonna get put in their place. But like, if you just come in there with like a good attitude, like everyone's like super cool about helping people get better, and man, the age ranges are like from teens to dudes in their fucking 50s, man, and all sizes. So there's like really like everybody's cool, man. Just try it out. Like, no, you don't have to pay anything. Just come in there and just take a class sometime,
Yeah, I definitely should. I've been wanting to do it for a while. I know a couple of my boys in New York do that, so it's been on my mind for a minute. But yeah, insane night of fight. So the main event, what do you think about? I'm in the Discord, right? And immediately after the finish, people on both sides of the fence thinking early stoppage, right stoppage. What's your take on that?
I mean, the dude face planted and he took 15 to 20 unanswered strikes.
Yep. I mean, yeah, it's pretty. That's what I think too. But I can see the other side a little bit, maybe. Seeing how the Zhang fight, the Weili Zhang fight played out and stuff like that. But yeah, I agree. Face down ass.
But I mean, wait, hold on. But was there a knockdown in the Weili Zhang fight?
No, yeah, it was more cumulative. It was definitely different.
Let me pull up the stats on. There was no knockdown in that, right?
I don't.
Yeah, there
She
was
might
one
knock down.
knockdown. There was
Yeah,
one
yeah,
knockdown. One
yeah. She
knockdown.
knocked down Lemos once.
But it was different because I mean, Lemo, she was trying to retain her guard. She's going for like submissions off her back. Like she's clearly showing that she's still in there. Whereas like when Aljo went face first, then 15 to 20 unanswered strikes, like usually when dudes think it's an early stoppage, they get back up, they start arguing with the ref, and Aljo didn't protest shit, man. He was still down. Like, and I think that if they would have let it continue, I mean, he would have went out cold. So it's like you let him take even more unnecessary damage, and it's like, do you want the man stiff on the canvas? Like, I thought it was done, man. And I didn't have money on either side. I even picked Aljo to win the fight on the show. I was rooting for O'Malley, but I thought Aljo could take him down and do his thing. But you know, I don't think it was early at all. And people calling it fixed. I think that, you know, maybe if they're just joking, haha.
Yeah.
But like, what's fixed about, you know, going face first into the canvas and then eating 15 to 20 unanswered strikes, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I tend to agree, lean that way too. You know, people are trying to say, you know, he was transitioning to a better position, but you got to defend yourself. You know, you can't keep eating strikes, getting your head dribbled off the canvas. So, I think you were talking to B-Raf, I think his name was, about the Ian Garry fight. I think the same. I think you nailed it too. I think the same exact thing. I think he obviously could have finished him, you know, but I think the fight week stuff just made him want to punish him for 15 straight minutes. So it's as simple as that. A lot of people had, you know, Garry ITD big and stuff like that. So that can sway some people. But yeah, I 100% agree with that too. Ian Garry's a fucking problem. He's a problem. So I'm fascinated to watch Dana said he's going to do MSG and at Dublin. So it's only going to get crazier, crazier and crazier. But yeah, bro. Yeah, I've been watching this shit for a minute. I try to, you know, I said the same thing to Liam, and whenever I'm on, you know, especially MMA pods or whatever the case is, capping fights every week is a grind. Like it's tough as hell. It's definitely a grind. So you know, I try to show respect, you know, whenever I'm you know, on a show and with people I respect. So same to you, bro. It's a grind. I know it. You know, I'm trying to do it too, trying to get better every day, trying to learn. So I definitely know it's a grind. So I, you know, respect to you putting in the work and, you know, these shows for the people and stuff like that. I love it. So I'm gonna continue to support, and yeah, I appreciate you, bro.
I appreciate you, bro. Anything you want to plug?
Nah, yeah, my Twitter's here. You know, if you want to follow, you know, dropping stuff on there constantly, doing MLB, doing the MMA. Football is coming soon, so I can't wait for that. But yeah, just grinding. You know how it is.
Yeah, man. That's what's up, man. Well, I really appreciate that. And bro, don't be a stranger. Come down to Team Octopus in Sandy Springs because there's 3 octopuses, so you don't want to go to the wrong location or anything like that. So Team Octopus off Roswell Road. And if you just want to hit me up and, you know, find out if I'm going to be there at that certain time, and I promise you, like, you're not going to get hurt or no shit like that. Everybody's super cool. And it's one of those things where, like, you don't want to think twice. You just want to, you know, just do it, you know, because you can overthink that shit from now to the rest of your life. But, you know, just stepping in there is half the battle. No pun intended, man. That's
yeah, no, 100%, 100%. You'll see me in there. You'll see me in there. So
okay.
my face, you'll see me in there. And
all right.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to up my belts. You know what I'm saying? Get on y'all level. So
yeah,
I appreciate you, bro. We'll keep in touch, and yeah, keep doing your thing, bro.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, my man. Well, I appreciate you. You take care. All right.
You too, bro.
At Finesse the Books. What's up, Ryan?
What's up, Dan? How you doing, bro?
Doing amazing. How are you doing, man?
I'm good, man. It was a fun night of fights. That O'Malley fight was something else.
Oh, it sure was, man. I mean, how'd you react when Aljo went face first into the canvas?
I couldn't believe it. I started texting my brother, my other brother. I was like, holy, like, man. I was curious your thoughts about Chris Lee scoring that Damon Blackshear fight, 30-27 for Mario Bautista.
Oh man, I thought Blackshear won that first round, right? Like, you know, that's one of the worst parts about the sport is the judging, man. And it's unfortunate when, you know, these guys work so damn hard and you don't even know the judges can take things away from you. Like you look last week at that Hakeem Dawodu fight, like for example, right? And even the Chris Weidman fight tonight, where I bet on Brad Tavares, right? I was worried that, Don't be worried. I muted you. I'll unmute you when it's your turn to talk, just because there was a little background noise. But I was worried that, Chris Weidman had like a moment or two where, like, he rocked Tavares on the feet, and like the whole crowd, anytime Chris would throw something, they'd go crazy. Whereas when Brad did anything, it was cricket. So I was like, don't tell me we're about to have another fucking Hakeem Dawodu situation. And again, if you've been following me, I'm not one to cry robbery, right? Like if like we're, in the middle of a fight that I have a bet on, and I know for a fact my guy's about to lose, I'll just tweet out, hey, X amount of units on this guy. I already know I lost, so I'm never one to cry robbery. And the Dawodu fight, like, I was like legitimately like shocked that he lost. And the distinction is like, well, people are like, well, how could you get mad? It was a close fight. I'm like, yeah, it was close, but it was clear. That's the distinction, Ryan.
For sure. That's why my question was more so about the 30-27, because I thought, like you said, round 1 was clear Blackshear. Round 3, I thought, was clear Bautista. Round 2 was the swing round, right? So
yeah, but listen, man, Blackshear, he doesn't lose any stock. He did what a BMF does, what a bad motherfucker does, which is, you show up last week, you become the third man in UFC history, you get a twister, right after Korean Zombie, right after Bryce Mitchell, and then there's Damon Blackshear, and you get your 50K bonus. And I'm sure the fact that he wanted to turn around on 7 days notice, and he didn't ask for a catch weight. He wasn't trying to fight at 145. He goes in there at 135. I'm sure he had a meeting with the bosses. They ripped up his contract, and they told him, like, hey man, like, here's your new contract, and you're on the pay-per-view main card now. I think that his stock went up big time. I think that he gained a lot of fans, and tonight's fight, even though it didn't go his way, he put up a hell of a fight. And if you look at the stats, and sometimes the stats don't always tell the whole story, of course, because you got to take it round by round, but he outlanded Mario in significance, in total strikes, and in takedowns. So, but you got to take it round by round, because that's how, the scoring system works. So, yeah, it's just one of those things, but I still think his stock goes up, and I think Mario Bautista is about to enter the top 15, and I don't think that Damon Blackshear is too far behind him.
I completely agree with you. Speaking of stock, I know you like to talk about, before the fights, fighter to watch and this and that. Who do you think stock, outside of the championship fights, whose stock rose the most tonight, you think?
Outside of the champs?
Yeah.
Ian Garry, even though he was a minus 500 favorite, people still doubt this guy for some reason. Obviously, they're not putting their money where their mouth is, because I remember when he fought Daniel Rodriguez, people were like, oh, it's about to be red panty night.
Everyone wants to fade Ian Garry. You're so right.
For some reason. And the thing about it is, that's a recurring theme with all these upcoming stars. Everyone wants to fade Sean O'Malley. Everyone wants to fade Ian Garry. Back in the day when Conor was doing his thing, I'm not talking about cokehead, juiced up Conor. I'm talking about Conor on the come up. Like when Conor was young and hungry, everybody wanted to fade him. And then back to Aljamain's, pre-fight talk. Oh, the UFC's handed him everything and this and that. Like, you're not like acknowledging the guy's skills. You're coming from a place of jealousy. You're coming from a place of resentment. And that's just not the mindset to have as a fighter or as a bettor, right? You need to actually look at the skills and not get caught up in the hoopla. Yeah, does Ian Garry say some out there shit? Sure, but how are his fighting skills? They're pretty fucking on point. And he showed it once again tonight against a guy, Neil Magny, who, I mean, when you look at Magny's resume, guys fight uncharacteristic when they fight him. I mean, Phil Rowe, a bright up-and-coming prospect, didn't fight like himself. Daniel Rodriguez didn't fight like himself. And then you look at some more well-known guys, Max Griffin, Jeff Neal, Robbie Lawler, Li Jing Liang. I can go on, right? So for, Ian to not even have to go through any adversity at all, I mean, he didn't just double this man up on strikes, man. He tripled him up on strikes. He got takedowns of his own. I think if he wanted to finish him, he could have. I think, like, we were talking about, he wanted to torture the guy, and I think Ian does have a mean streak. This is the first time that he's gotten into it with an opponent. And it didn't make him fight uncharacteristic, because sometimes when there's bad blood, guys will be kind of hesitant because, like, I can't lose to this guy. You know what I mean? Like, I hate this guy so much that I can't lose to him. And that didn't stop Ian Garry from doing his thing, man. Ian Garry went out there and he absolutely mopped the floor with Neil Magny, and I think it's bright skies. I think it's top 10 next, and I can't wait to see who they match him up with.
Yeah, because I mean, like you said, man, Magny makes people fight uncharacteristically. He has that knack for just holding you up against the cage, and Garry avoided that and still got his volume off and looked good doing it. So
Yeah. He sure did. He sure did. And he approached him the right way, right? He avoided the clinch for the most part. When it did get into the clinch, Ian dominated the clinch, but he went to the calf kicks, which is so important when fighting a guy like Neil Magny. And he had him hurt with that first calf kick he threw. And I'm pulling up the stats right now because I'm actually curious how many leg strikes he threw. Take a guess. How many calf kicks do you think Ian Garry threw?
Yeah, well, he knocked him down with the first 2 he threw, I think, right? If I had to guess, he probably landed about 36 leg kicks.
Close. So he attempted 43 leg kicks and he landed 43 leg kicks. So this man had an 100% accuracy on his calf kicks against Neil Magny. And then in terms of head strikes, you know, he hit him 32 times there, 16 times to the body. I mean, he just destroyed this man. So I can't wait to see what he does next. You know, obviously Bilal's up next for the title. And then the kind of issues that Ian's going to run into is that he trains with most of the top guys. He trains with Shavkat. He trains with Luque. He trains with Gilbert Burns. Kamaru as well.
So obviously Wonderboy turned down the short notice. Do you think Wonderboy would take that fight on a full camp?
But here's the thing. He had the full camp for Pereira. So it's not like
but he cut weight for that already, right? Recently. And then so kind of reset, give him a full fresh camp, right?
No, you're right. You know, he's not a black shear, you know what I'm saying?
He's not a BMF. He's not a BMF.
But I mean, I don't know. I don't know what Wonder Boy is willing to do at this point, right? But I think that they're not going to offer him that fight anymore. You had your chance, kid. Like, okay, you don't want the Michelle Pereira fight? No problem. Here's Ian Garry a week or two later on a pay-per-view main card. How about that? Featured bout of the evening. Is that better for you? Ian's not going to miss weight. Nope, apparently not. Give me a $250,000 for not fighting. So I don't know where Wonder Boy's head's at, but I know that Ian Garry's headed straight to the top.
Completely agree, man. Well, thank you for giving me the mic for a bit. That was fun chatting with you, bro. If there's anyone else in there, I want to give them a chance to hop on as well. So
thanks, bro.
Appreciate you, man.
You take care, buddy. All right.
You too.
Mi amigo, mi hermano, Eric. What's up, brother? How are you?
Can you hear me?
Of course I can hear you, bro. What's up?
Dude, I'm still I was about to go to sleep. I'm just like, you know what? Let me just hop in for a second. I'm still psyched of what happened. What an amazing night, dude.
I know.
Like career changing. Now the path changes. Now the division's wide open again. So many future matchups, big matchups, interesting matchups. I'm excited, dude. I'm really excited.
And it's amazing because it's kind of like what Izzy was talking about, that sometimes it's about destiny. Sometimes it's about someone's time. Sometimes someone's not going to be denied no matter what. No matter, oh, his ground game's not on the level of Aljamain. Oh, this, oh, that. Conor McGregor doesn't have the wrestling of Chad Mendes. Conor McGregor doesn't have the accolades of Jose Aldo. Israel Adesanya hasn't done what Robert Whittaker has done. All these things. Sometimes these guys just rise to the occasion. Bisping's a fucking plus 750 underdog against Luke Rockhold. Like,
exactly.
A certain times, certain nights, guys just aren't going to be denied. And whether you believe in destiny or fate or whatever the case may be, tonight was Sugar's night. He stuffed the takedowns, and he face planted Aljamain Sterling, landed 15 to 20 unanswered strikes, and he's your new undisputed UFC bantamweight champion.
It's not the tools you have, it's how to use them, right? There can be many times where we're going to analyze a fighter and be like, oh yeah, he has way more tools to win this fight. Yeah, but will he get the chance to use them? Sugar Sean O'Malley knew what was going to happen. He knew what the plan was for Aljamain Sterling. He prepared for it. He just needed to stop the takedowns, keep the fight on the feet, and eventually there was a high chance that he was going to find either a right or left hand that would have the opportunity to finish the fight. And what a beautiful counter right, dude. Like, step back, boom. Same way Conor did it to Aldo. And like, it's amazing. I have all the respect in the world for Aldo and the way he handled that post-fight interview when he said, I got to reassess myself. If Sean O'Malley was able to do this to me, imagine what Volkanovski can do to me. Like, it
Facts.
takes a lot of guts. It takes a lot of like self-awareness to be able to, in a moment like that, you're very vulnerable. You were the champion minutes ago. Now you're no longer the champion, and you're able to make those assessments. My respect for Aljo has grown tremendously. He's always had my respect. I was never in the band of like people that hated him because of the way he won the title. But now that he spoke after and the way he handled himself, it's amazing. Even Sean O'Malley said it, dude. You could tell he was nervous the first 2 minutes of that fight. He was like shaky. He didn't feel loose. You can tell he wasn't in that rhythm. Then as time went by, he started getting into the rhythm. Flashy, dude. And at the end of the day, you know what surprised me a lot, Dan? There was a moment where he threw, I think it was a front kick, and he fell down. He slipped and fell. And Aljo tried to capitalize. And even then, he was unable to take him down. That's how well prepared he was for those takedowns. And after that happened, I mean, I'm not sure what Aljo thought about it at the second, but that's when I started realizing, I was like, oh my God, like, O'Malley might be able to keep this on the feet. And if he does, it's 5 rounds. There's going to be a chance at one point, because Aljo is known for being a little bit reckless at times. But, dude, it was perfect timing. Perfect timing, perfect way of doing it. And I'm not trying to, like, you know, I'm Hispanic, I'm Puerto Rican. I'm not trying to, like, bandwagon under Hispanic. But want it or not, deserve it or not, it might be Chito next. UFC's already promoting it. That's going to be a hell of a fight, like promotion wise. I can tell you that our perception as Hispanic, it's going to be major for all Latin Americans, dude. There's going to be crazy numbers in that fight. Crazy numbers.
It's a massive fight. And bro, this ain't about being biased or any shit like that. I mean, I've already talked about it already. Corey Sandhagen injured with a torn tricep.
Yeah.
Umar Nurmagomedov pulled out the Corey Sandhagen fight with an injury. Merab Dvalishvili just had a surgery. So who's left?
Perfect.
Chito.
Perfect time.
And guess what? Who's the only man to beat O'Malley? Chito. And plus, the way that these two are going to build up this fight.
Hell yeah.
I mean, this is going to be one of the biggest fights of next year. Yeah. Unless they do it in December or something.
They're talking December, which will be wild, but I'm all for it. I'm all for it. If he's willing, I mean, Chito's not too banged up. O'Malley's not too banged up. They can definitely do it towards the end of the year. O'Malley said Vegas. I'm not sure if that's still a possibility, but holy shit, that's going to be a fun buildup. Crazy buildup.
100%. And what do you think about Marlon's performance tonight? I was very impressed, and I'll tell you why. Because a lot of people actually thought Munoz might have got it, but I completely disagree. I thought that Munoz might have, you know, they say that he attempted more strikes, but actually when you look at the numbers, not only did he not attempt more strikes, he got outlanded on actual strikes landed. And I think that, you know, one thing I've always said about Marlon is that he's going to be a lot better when he gets into these 5-round fights, because he's got that tendency to kind of take that first round off, kind of like Peter Yan style, kind of make his reads and, you know, kind of see where his openings are at. And then he's a killer from there. But I thought that he was establishing his jab. He does really well against shorter fighters. And I thought he clearly won the fight. And to bounce back from that last one, because that fight against Sandhagen, like, not only was it a demoralizing loss, but it was almost like Marlon got exposed in every area of the game. And it was kind of like a crossroads type fight where it's like, okay, this is the fight where it's like, this is a make or break fight. What happened to him against Corey Sandhagen? Like, you're either going to take that loss as badly as, you know, as we viewed it, because we viewed it like all his stock completely dropped. And this guy picks himself back up. And let me tell you something, because when you look at the numbers in the Sandhagen fight, right, he landed 58 significant strikes. Okay, so now let's put that in context with the Pedro Munoz fight. He landed basically as many strikes as he in round 3 of the Pedro Munoz fight as he did in the entire 5 rounds of the Corey Sandhagen fight. So if that doesn't get your confidence back up to let you know, hey, it was just an off night, there are some things I need to work on, because Marlon was coming off a big finish streak. Maybe his head was getting a little bit big. He was getting some big sponsorships. He was going on Joe Rogan. Like, everybody's kissing his ass. He's got the most finishes in bantamweight history. People were talking like, hey, this is the next title challenger.
Yeah.
And that's not to take away from Sandhagen, who, you know, is also on a mission as well. But I think that this was important for Marlon to know that, hey, I still am that guy. I still am capable, and I can still make those improvements and go out there, earn myself a title shot. And Eric, now he did it, and he's going to face a guy that he once beat, and it's going to be one of the biggest pay-per-views of either this year or next year.
Yeah, I completely agree. What did I think about the fight? Could have he done better? Yeah, but dude, he was fighting Pedro Munoz. Pedro Munoz is never an easy opponent, specifically in this position. Pedro was getting a number 6 while he was number 10. He was given the opportunity to climb the ranks. That was an opportunity he was going to try to capitalize on. He definitely tried. One thing I appreciated from Munoz was the volume. He was trying to keep up whenever Marlon connected. It was very obvious that Marlon had the power behind those punches. Every time Marlon connected, you could clearly see he was having an effect on Munoz, and Munoz was quick to like retaliate. 2-3 combinations. But yeah, Chito closed like a champion. It was a great victory, just like you said. And there's a lot of questions around Chito. Hispanic people love Chito Vera. I have a perception that I can see both ways, right? I can see the good and I can see the bad. Yeah. Chito's a late starter. He always shines in those 5-round fights. If you give him more time, that's when he starts becoming very destructive. And we saw it today in the 3rd round. It was a very, very, he put on a beating on that 3rd round on Pedro Munoz. No, but the first 2 rounds, they were a little bit closer, right? Munoz did have his moments, but just like you said, dude, the planets align in such a way. O'Malley upsets, Chito gets a victory, everyone else is injured. There's a clear pathway for a great rematch, great storyline. He's the only person to ever defeat Sean O'Malley in a way that was a little bit finicky, right? Not all the questions were answers. We're not 100% sure that Chito is 100% better than Sean O'Malley. And this version of Sean O'Malley is completely different. Talking about a Sean O'Malley that comes from beating 2 former champions, Peter Yan and now Aljamain Sterling. People can say whatever they want about the Yan victory. Was it close? Was it controversial? Yes, it's still a win. And with time, people forget. Something this sport has taught me in the time that I've been following is with time, people forget. People do not care as much about close decisions as long as in the next fight, you get the job done. Sean O'Malley just got the job done. That controversial decision around Peter Yan, people are not going to hold it over his head for a long time. So I'm very, very interested. I like the performance from Chito. Dude, this dude has a chin. We don't talk about the chin Chito has. Like Pedro Munoz was landing right hands that put out Cody Garbrandt, that has knocked out a lot of people. Chito took it like a champ. It's like, oh, that's all you got? All right, cool. Check this out. Crazy jab. I'm loving the jab Chito has implemented in his last couple fights. Very destructive, has a great fight, a great way of like disrupting his opponent's offense. But yeah, man, it was a great performance overall. He got the win that he needed, and we're in for a treat with this buildup, dude. I'm going to have so much fun creating content for this fight.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Marlon Chito Vera and Pedro Munoz, they both have 30 professional fights. Neither guy's been knocked down, and neither guy's been knocked out. Neither guy's been submitted. Neither guy's been finished. So these are 2 of the most durable guys in the history of the sport. And it's going to be a sad day when either of them gets finished. I always talk about it because they do take a lot of damage. And when you talk about chin, heart, balls, and finishing instinct, you talk about Marlon Chito Vera and Pedro Munoz, you know? So to put them in there, man, and imagine if that was a 5-round fight. It could have been one of the best fights of the year. So, you know, it was great to see, but I did think that Chito Vera clearly won the fight. I know it was close, but
did you agree with 30-27? That kind of put me off.
No, maybe not 30-27, but I thought the right guy won the fight, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's one of those things. Again, I was talking to someone about it earlier. Like a fight can be close, but it can still be clear, right?
Oh yeah.
And that's kind of how I viewed that. Like if Pedro got his arm raised, I bet you Chito would have been like what? Like let's song the song you don't.
Yeah, he seemed pretty confident when the decision was being read. Chito seemed very confident that he had this fight, and I was still a bit hesitant. I was like, it was a close fight. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised with what I saw then later on with Mario Bautista and Damon, right? Like judges were a little bit iffy in some scorecards, and when I 30-27, I was like, oh. And then they went for Chito. I'm like, okay, I'm not upset about the result. I think Chito could have pulled it off. I think Chito pulled it off. But 30-27, I was like, but it's okay. The right guy won. We got the storyline. Perfect setup.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So before we get out of here, a couple people I got to give shout outs to. I thought that, firstly, Gregory Hobo Cop, he did exactly what he needed to do. Like, dude, like, listen, we
When
get
he's
it.
on,
You got power in both hands. You can bang with the best of them. But when you have such an advantage on the mat, I mean, look, one takedown and the fight was over shortly after. I mean, lands 3 strikes, knocks him out right away, 2 vicious elbows, and that's all she wrote. So it's good to see him do what he needed to do, because he's a killer be killed guy, and sometimes he's gonna get those brutal knockouts like he did to Julian Marquez, like he did the Iron Turtle Jung Young Park, that war he had with Chidi and Jaquani. But from time to time, when you fight with that life and death, style, that stand and bang until one man falls, you are going to get knocked out like he did against Bruno Ferreira, like he did against Jordan Williams. So it's good that, because Dennis Chaluin, look, I know he's Russian, but for a Russian, he's not known for, having the best grappling ability, but he is a banger. And if Gregory would have banged with him, I'm not saying that Gregory wouldn't have won, but I'm just saying, why even give that guy a chance to win the fight? Exactly. So I was happy to see that. And then also, I was really happy to see both the Silvas show out. Natalia Silva, I think that she's got a very high ceiling. I think that she and what's funny, she's a lot younger than I thought she was. Not that she looks old, but for some reason, I thought that she was like in her 30s and like in her prime. Dude, she's 26 years old. She's a kid, and she's going out here and styling
super
on
solid.
people.
Andrea Lee's a really great fighter, and she put her on. That's when I was watching that fight. I'm like, I'm a big Andrea Lee fan, and then as I was watching the fight, I'm like, okay, we got a nice prospect in our hands right now. This girl is gonna go far. The pace, the diversity in her striking. I'm like, oh, I'm liking what I'm seeing. Things are getting interesting, dude. I think we're living a very good moment for the sport and a transition. I'm a very big believer that every certain amount of years there's a big transition where you start seeing new faces, a new level evolve, right? All these people, they're not the GSPs of the life. They grew up doing MMA all around. And when they get to the professional on the UFC level, they have such a well-rounded game, such an understanding of absolutely everything that we're not used to seeing such high level so early in a career. We're used to seeing them develop little by little. But as time goes by, we're getting these Silvas that when you see them for the first time, you're just like, holy shit, this is impressive.
Absolutely. She's athletic. She's well-rounded. I mean, her striking, not just the speed, the footwork, the kicks, the in and out. Her takedown defense is on point. Her get-up game is there. She's, I believe, a black belt in jiu-jitsu as well. So you just love to see it. And then speaking of which, Carini Silva. I mean, Carini Silva really stands out. Let me pull up her stats real quick, because this is really important to note, because this is something you don't see every day in the women's division. So check this out. Carini Silva has 17 wins. Let me ask you something. Out of those 17 wins, how many of them do you think are decision wins?
I don't know. I'll take a wild guess and say 4 or 5.
4 or 5? Final answer?
Yeah.
0 decision wins. Carini Silva has finished all 17 of her wins. And we're talking about the women's flyweight division. This is unheard of, Eric. Normally, and I got nothing wrong, nothing against people winning by decision. That's a perfectly acceptable method of winning a fight. I mean, everybody knows that. I mean, who cares if it wins?
Not everybody gets finished. You could have fought a Pedro Munoz or a Chito Vera. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. And let's take it a step further. She's had 21 professional fights. Out of those 21 professional fights, how many of them do you think have gone to decision?
Maybe 2.
1.
That's crazy.
So
that's what people want to see, right? People love finishes. Let's see people getting behind them.
So when you see someone that's that potent of a finisher in the women's divisions, and we're talking about she's a specialist a guillotine choke on the Contender Series, and it's you know, some people would be like, oh, she got a guillotine, what's the big deal? But then the next fight, UFC debut, a Darce choke. Then she gets a Z-lock, which is like a knee bar / heel hook, which I'm a purple belt in jiu-jitsu, and I had never even heard of that move before. Then tonight, another guillotine, and Marina Moroz is someone who's had, how many pro fights does Marina Moroz have? Let's pull it up. Marina Moroz has
Season vet.
16 pro fights. Let me ask you, back to trivia. How many times prior to tonight do you think Marina Moroz had been finished?
None.
0.
That's
So
crazy.
and we're talking about someone, in Marina Moroz that's been in there with Mayra Bueno Silva, who's a very potent finisher, a very dangerous fighter, been in there with some of the who's who, and Karine Silva drops her and chokes her out in the first round. And I heard people talking about how could you tap with 1 second left? And listen, I'm not a fighter, but I am a grappler, and I am also in a aficionado for the guillotine. When you get caught in one of those things and it's fully locked in, look, there's some guillotines where, you know, there's a little bit of wiggle room. Maybe you can turn your neck a certain way, you can stick your thumb in, you can do all these things and give yourself a little bit of space to breathe. But when that shit is fully locked in, you're not thinking about how much time is left on the clock. You're thinking, my neck's about to break, my head's about to pop off, I'm about to fucking die. So that's why
people got a grip. Some people got a grip. There's people that can like submit you without it having the full choke on, you know? That's how you know they have a grip. And we don't know unless you've been in that position, unless you're in that position. We're never in a place to judge someone that taps. It doesn't matter how long. Because like you said, it's not like we're here in the cage looking at the clock constantly. Yeah, from time to time, we'll see fighters take a peep. But when she's tapping with that amount of time left, you know 100% she was not aware of how long she had.
And another example, do you remember when Magomed Ankalaev tapped with 1 second left against Paul Craig to that triangle, and people are giving him shit? And I might have been at the time, but I, you know, now that, you know, I've advanced in my grappling, and when you're in a fully locked in triangle, you're not thinking about how much time's left. You're thinking about my eyes are about to pop out my fucking head and I'm about to die. And that's why, what is Ankalaev, a pussy or something? Hell no. This guy's a Russian stone cold killer. So jiu-jitsu, when these submissions are fully locked in, man, like it doesn't matter.
I've always, my recommendation and my followers constantly is that it's like, before we talk, everybody can talk. Just roll. Go have a roll. Just for once in your lifetime, experience what it is to be choked out. That way, it will change your whole perspective on what these athletes go through. Like, oh yeah, oh my God, he should have held it. It's like, dude, you literally feel like your head's about to detach from your body.
Yeah.
Like the pressure that builds up, like, will make people go crazy. It's like, I will never sit and judge someone for tap. It doesn't matter how long. If it was synced in and they should tap, yeah, we will respect if you don't, because we know what you're going through. But unless you've experienced it, there is hell no.
Dude, it's funny because the other night I was thinking about how, like, bro, I can't be guillotined. Like, I know how to escape guillotines and do all these things, right? And then I was rolling with Yemi Oduwale. He's I think he's fighting like LFA or CES now. And he got me in this guillotine. And bro, when I tell you that it was instant and so tight, you don't have a chance to think. You don't have a chance to like look at your watch or look at the clock or hey,
develop a plan to escape. Like, oh, how can I escape this position?
No, bro. It's either I tap or like I could get, or it feels like you're gonna get paralyzed or you're gonna die. Like it's different when it's fully locked in. Like I said, if there's some wiggle room and it's not fully locked in, okay, that's one thing. But once that shit is locked in, like locked in, and there's no room to go, that's a death sentence. It's like a fully locked in armbar. It's like either you tap or your arm snaps, and that's the bottom line. And
unless you're Cody, your boy,
you know. And I think that the thing with that. And I don't want to discredit that situation at all because that was absolutely insane. And he had to pull out his fight as a result. His doctor refused to clear him. But like, man, if Jake Hadley, I'm just trying to figure out how Jake Adley didn't snap his arm. Well, I don't know if it was a technique thing. I don't know, because some dudes have like rubber arms or are like double jointed, so it's kind of like a interesting situation. Like I don't know if it was one of those cases, but like usually when you're in armbar for that long, like in a real situation, a live situation, when it's not your training partner, like that shit should snap in half. Like
and I was surprised he was able to use it afterwards. That's the most amazing thing. I'm just like, oh yeah, he's not. I'm just like, he's not gonna use that arm for the rest of the fight. Like, no, then he is like a couple seconds later throwing that arm. I'm just like, what is wrong with this dude? What is he made of?
Yeah, the only guys I've seen like that are him and Jamal Hill. You know, when Paul Craig broke his arm, Jamal starts trying to hit it. He tries to hit him with that broken arm. You know, he's the only guy that got caught in a Paul Craig submission that didn't tap. And what's funny is when you look at Paul Craig's record, they count it as a TKO, not a submission, because
he didn't submit it. He never tapped.
Yeah, he never tapped. So yeah, it's interesting how it works. So before I get you out of here, man, any closing thoughts? I mean, we talked about Carini, we talked about Natalia, about Hobo Cop, we talked about Brad Tavares, Marlon, and Pedro, Ian Garry, the main event. I mean, oh yeah, let's talk about Zhang Weili, because man, let me say this. I'm so happy she won, because now we get to see the China versus China super fight with Yan Xiaonan.
We need that fight. Please make it happen.
I need that fight in my life. I mean, bro, like longtime listeners of the show know I've bet on Yan Xiaonan every single UFC fight she's had. We're 8-2, and it's finally time to get that title shot, and that's going to be a massive fight. Could you imagine if they did? It's probably not going to be like this, but could you imagine that it did Marlon versus Chito and Xiaonan versus Weili on the same card?
It'd be kind of cool. I'm very excited for that fight. I said it with all due respect. There are levels, and Amanda Lemos had never faced anyone in this level. When we talk about MMA, female MMA, right? We're talking about one of the participants of the most exciting fight we have ever seen. And this girl keeps growing, keeps learning. She is extremely humble. That little stint she had with Henry Cejudo helped her incredibly. Not only she's a great grappler now, she's active. She's constantly transitioning. She's looking for the finish. If not, she's looking for that ground and pound. And it was a very good fight. Biggest striking differential in a women's fight in general. 288 versus 21. I mean, that tells you what you need to know about Zhang Weili. Like you said, Yang Xiaonan has evolved so much in recent years. She's become a very interesting fighter. Her physicality as well. That's what makes this fight very interesting. And I hope the UFC gets it done, because we know that sometimes popularity will allow you to cut the line. We know we have Tatiana Suarez right there knocking on the door. And we're used to the UFC doing some weird things in order for boost popularity or make what makes sense for the business and not for the rankings. But yeah, man, I really hope we get to see that fight. That's a fight that we need to see eventually, and it's the best time for it to happen, right? There's a lot of like people that are not 100% sure if they're in and out in this division. Yang Xiaonan was there. I was surprised to see her there present. I love the fact that she traveled. I'm a big fan of when challengers do that. They show presence. They follow the champion, and they show the interest that they have in getting that title shot. But going back to the fight, dude, it was like one-way traffic. Amanda Lemos, yeah, she landed a couple right hands that made us like fringe for a couple seconds, like, oh my God, was she able to get her? But other than that, it was one-way traffic. Zhang Weili is amazing. She keeps evolving, and dude, it's an exciting division. I love watching this division.
Yeah, no doubt about it. If they can't do the, Chito and Sean on the same card as Weili and Xiaonan, man, it'd be so cool to see Xiaonan and Weili headline in China. I don't know if that's a deal they can get done, but if they could do that,
that's my major dream. Make it happen over there. Give them their respect. Allow them to enjoy their own fans. Zhang Weili puts a lot of effort into like learning English, at least saying hi.
Oh, that goes a long way. That goes a long way.
Hell yeah, dude. I appreciate her so much for putting that effort. She's constantly trying. Dude, let her get her flowers at home. Let her get her flowers at home against another.
Both of them.
Yeah, that'd be amazing, dude. That'd be amazing.
And you talk about, you know, the improvements Weili's made. I mean, you know how,
Mhm.
you know, a year ago she's getting out grappled by Rose Namajunas, then she turns around and now she can, you know, take down and submit someone like Carla Esparza. Those are the kind of improvements you like to see. And on the other side, with Yan Xiaonan, you know, from her getting dominantly beaten by Carla Esparza to all of a sudden she can survive the worst positions against Mackenzie Dern. She can one punch knock out Jessica Andrade. That is the fight to make. So yeah, I can't wait for it, man. So yeah, we're gonna have to wrap this thing up now. I really appreciate it. Let the fans know where they can follow you and all your great content. I love the background, man. I love that perp, man. It looks good.
Thank you, man. Yeah, it just like the contrast is good for the black. If you by any chance are Spanish speaking, I have a YouTube channel. It's called Liga Combate. I'm posting live. I'm doing live streams. I'm doing video analysis. I'm also doing shorts lately. That's done pretty good numbers. So I'm hopping into that as well. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, you can find me as ericalexander.mma. All my content is in Spanish, but I am fluent in English. So if you ever want to have a conversation, just let me know. I'm always down.
Yes, sir. It was good meeting you at the PFL events. And then also, man, if you want to clip any of the things you said from our talk, feel free to do it. Just give them a link to this video, and you're more than welcome to do that. And man, let's do this again soon. It's good to finally talk to you on
I'm
air.
always down. I'm always down. The good thing about this, my setup is always up. I was literally shirtless eating pizza on my couch when you said, "Hey, hop on." I'm just like, you know what? Let me just hop on. Turned everything on. So I'm always down. Just let me know. And yeah, man, I'll do this again anytime.
All right, brother. Good seeing you, man. Come by the gym sometime.
Hey, I'm planning to. That will happen soon. I bet.
All right, my man. You take care. All right.
All right.
It's my boy Eric, cool ass dude. I actually hung out with him at the PFL ATL event. So, man, thank you all so much for joining me on this special after the battle edition of Half the Battle. Smash that like button for me when this is over. Leave me a comment if you're so inclined. Feel free to share. And then shout out to all the guests I had on here. I didn't expect that many people to come in here and want to hang out and talk, and it was an absolute pleasure. And then cheers to Sean O'Malley, to Zhang Weili. I gotta say it right because people are giving me heat. Zhang Weili. All right, now I said it right. Ian Garry, Bautista and Blackshear, Vera and Munoz, Brad Tavares and Chris Weidman, Gregory Hobocop, Kurt Hollabo, Katona and Gibson, Petrosky and Mearshart, Natalia Silva and Karini Silva. Y'all went out there, y'all showed up, y'all showed out, and we're blessed. So I'll be back next week to talk about the Singapore card. Already got 2 bets on it. If you follow me on Twitter at Best Fight Picks, y'all know what they are. And then we got a technique of the week coming next week. Let me know what y'all want to see. Is it that Karini Silva guillotine? Because y'all know I love my guillotine. So if that's what it is, just let me know. And until the next time, let's cash these bets.